we have on board Mr. Tamal Bandyopadhyay, who's an author and senior journalist, joining us on the show to understand the impact of what this could mean for the street and for the bank going ahead as well. Good afternoon, Mr. Bandyopadhyay. Thanks for taking time out and chatting with us on ET now. First of all, how do you interpret the CEO's abrupt resignation? According to you, was this along expected lines? And what do you think lies ahead for IndusInd Bank and its investors? Because we understand that there is an interim committee, but despite that, would you believe that this derails hopes for a smooth transition going ahead?
Yeah, thank you. As far as resignation is concerned, not the CEO alone. You have seen that it's the climax. Before that, deputy CEO, well before that, CFO. People have been leaving. So is there any surprise? Not certainly. There's no surprise because what happened in IndusInd Bank. I am just talking from whatever the available information. I'm not privy to any information which is not in public domain. So if we dissect that information, there are accounting issues, call it accounting jugglery or whatever it is. And my understanding is this, it was discovered sometime late last year, maybe in the last quarter. I think Reserve Bank of India did play a role in uncovering that. It just not suddenly came up in March and, bank discovered and they admitted that something is happening. It's not like the case. It was there. But it took so long, and it's an accounting issue. I'm not getting into the technicalities, which, like many other banks, are finding it difficult to meet the deadline which RBI has set, and they have been asking for extensions, so on and so forth. But in this case, they were merely going ahead, whatever they were doing, and essentially to attract NRI deposits. That's the root of it. And of course, then getting into the derivatives trading and the discrepancy of accounting norm between the treasury and the real balance sheet. Um, Leave this apart. What was the CEO doing? What was the management doing? What was the audit committee of the board doing? What was the risk management committee of the board doing? I mean, they're all sleeping. And apart from that, you have been seeing that there have been allegations of insider trading against certain senior executives. So while this spate of resignations are on the expected line, but there are many questions to be raised. For instance, the deputy CEO who had resigned yesterday, and this particular segment, along with other businesses, was also under this gentleman. Now, first of all, why was he allowed to be there so long? Because theoretically, technically, anybody of his position could have influenced the investigation. So shouldn't that person be actually kept aside? Probably it has been done. We do not know. It's not in public domain and all. So there is a sort of disappointment, I would say, the way things have been unfolding for such a large bank. Because at the
Absolutely.
end of the day, it's just like you make an accident and then
Right.
rash driving, some people are killed, and then only after the postmortem report comes,
Right.
indeed they are killed. I regret that. Oh, I should not have driven this way.
Right.
So
Right.
why did it take so long to take the moral responsibility?
Right, point taken, Mr. Bandyopadhyay. But like you mentioned, because of the spate of resignations, now even the CEO, that increases the risk of, another round of business disruption, and therefore the recovery becomes, it becomes a very slow process. What can be the material impact on the growth of the bank in the medium term?
No, it's nothing. I mean, it's not a quality of asset as such. It's an accounting issue for which there's about, going by again media reports, etc. It's about 2,000 crore gap, which will have some 2.5% impact on the, if indeed that is correct, 2.5% impact of the net worth. And presuming that rest of it about the quarterly of portfolio, etc., is good, I think I mean, it's not a huge dent to the bank that bank will collapse, and neither for the depositors. I can't talk on behalf of the investors, but certainly as at this kind of thing, it's not a, the bank will go down under. It's that is not the question at all. In fact, Reserve Bank of India governor called it an episode. So I would agree with that. This is an episode, very unfortunate episode. It's not a systemic risk, neither is a risk for the bank. People's money are safe. Investors, they have their own calculation how to come back to this, or buying the stocks again. That's a separate, or staying put. That's a separate story. It will not have a huge dent on the bank balance sheet or profitability in future, provided the other businesses are fine. But it raises a very critical question about corporate governance. That's the key question. That's point number one. And point number two is this: the senior executives, I owe the moral responsibility and I quit. Should that be the end, or should that be beyond that? There should be exemplary action by Reserve Bank of India, which will prevent the other bankers to get into this mess.
Right. So before we let you go, we understand you have a paucity of time, but just a quick view, because in previous transitions at banks like RBL and Yes Bank, we've seen regulatory intervention earlier. Are you seeing any parallels here, and how likely is an RBI nominated director or a PSU banker appointment at IndusInd? How likely is that? If just a quick view you could give us on that.
Yes, that's a very sensitive issue. If you ask me RBI intervention, yes, I would like to believe RBI intervention would be there, not officially, unofficially. What Reserve Bank of India does is essentially, informing the bank that, look, I'm not very happy with whoever you have selected, get some more names or whatever it is. So that kind of thing, I would not say that it's not possible. I would like to believe it is possible. RBI would influence, and rightly so, even though technically banking regulator has nothing to do with the bank thing. It's a bank board that will nominate, and the RBI will tick mark either number one or number two. Typically number one if the compliance is correct and
Right.
fit and. But whether a public sector bank will be able to handle it, that's a very critical question. Because
Right.
this private bank is a very different animal,
Right.
culturally, even everything else. And our experience with public sector bank running private bank is mixed. I would not
Okay.
say it's an astounding success or a huge failure. So I
Right.
think we need to, it's a thing we need to debate on that. It's just
Right.
no, yes or no answer to it.
Right. Mr. Bandyopadhyay, also you mentioned that this is not a systemic threat, it is one-off. So in that case, a lot of analysts also believe that post the resignation, the stock overhang is likely to get over. Do you see that from here on, the bank can perhaps emerge stronger post these resignations?
No, as I said, no, this is only one side of it, but we are not about, we do not know, and I have not any information about, is there any other issues when it's a question of the quality of assets per se? Like, it has huge, diamond portfolio. It's also have a microfinance portfolio, apart from other normal things and all. So how are those portfolios doing? What is the quality of, what kind of quality of assets have been done? What kind of provisioning have been done, etc., etc. This I would like to believe, and really happy to, if happy it's there. This is a one-up case, and it's being addressed. And okay, you provide for extra 2,000 crores plus, and take a dent in your on your balance sheet, on your net worth, about 2.5% or so.
Right.
That period, that's over. You move ahead. But we need to see that if overall other credit portfolios, particularly microfinance, particularly the diamond book, which is a huge book and all, how are they? Now, if we find there are also certain issues,
Right.
I'm not suggesting there would be issues and there are issues. But
Okay.
if we find a similar issues and all, then we need to think about it.
Right.
But otherwise, as I
Absolutely.
said, it's not something for which the bank will go down under. Certainly
Well,
not.
sounding optimistic, Mr. Bandyopadhyay, on that front, and appreciate you joining us today, taking the time out and explaining our viewers how to differentiate the noise from everything that's been happening. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much. But